For 1,000 years, the world of Dravenar was silent and empty. The red sky hung heavy over the broken land, and nothing moved except the wind that whispered through the old ruins. Once, long ago, this world was full of life and light. Great cities stood tall, and dragons flew high in the air beside humans. But that was before the great cataclysm, before everything changed. In the center of the ruined world stood Mount Saren, a dark mountain that reached above the clouds. At its base lay the remains of a temple built of black stone. In the deepest part of that temple was a great hall where the last dragon slept. His name was Dravakar. He was not dead, but chained by glowing bands of energy that wrapped around his wings, claws, and heart. For 1,000 years he waited in silence. His eyes, once bright as fire, had grown dim. No one came to that place anymore. Even the brave stayed far away. The air around the mountain burned with strange energy that made machines fail and people fall sick. It was said that those who got too close could hear voices in their heads, voices that begged or warned them to leave. The people of the nearby systems called it the cursed planet and avoided it completely. But far away, humanity had moved on. They built new colonies, new ships, and new lives among the stars. The old stories of dragons and magic were forgotten, told only as bedtime tales to children. Few believed that any of it had been real, and so Dravakar's world fell out of memory. Then one day, in the distant future, a small cargo ship drifted into the forbidden sector. Its name was the Horizon Star. It carried two people, Ethan Cross, a pilot known for his curiosity and reckless courage, and his co-pilot, Mia Carter, a quiet and clever navigator. They were delivering supplies to a mining outpost when their ship systems began to fail. The navigation computer went dark, and the engines sputtered out. Before they could send a distress call, a strong pull drew them toward a strange energy field. The ship crashed near Mount Saren, breaking through layers of dust and stone. When the smoke cleared, Ethan stepped out and saw the mountain standing tall against the red sky. He felt a strange warmth in the air, almost like the breath of something alive. He did not know it yet, but he was standing at the edge of a secret that had waited 1,000 years for him to arrive. Ethan Cross sat in the broken cockpit of the Horizon Star, staring at the flickering lights of the control panel. The ship had crash-landed harder than he expected. Sparks flew from the damaged circuits, and the air was filled with the smell of smoke and metal. Mia Carter sat beside him, rubbing her head. She had hit her helmet during the crash but was still awake. "Engines are gone," Ethan said quietly, checking the readings. "And the communication system is fried." Mia sighed. "So we're stuck here." Outside, the red sky of Dravenar burned like fire. The ground was dark and cracked, covered in strange rocks that glowed faintly in the shadows. The mountain nearby rose high, its peak lost in clouds. The scanners showed no sign of life, yet Ethan felt something in the air, like the world was watching them. They stepped out of the ship carefully. The dust crunched under their boots, and the wind howled through the wreckage. In the distance, the mountain seemed to hum, a low sound that made the ground tremble slightly. Ethan looked at his scanner again. "There's a huge energy source under that mountain," he said. "It's old, really old." Mia frowned. "Could be a reactor from the old wars. Or something worse," Ethan said with a grin. He always smiled when danger was near, and Mia knew it meant trouble. Still, she followed him. They carried small lights and emergency gear as they walked toward the base of the mountain. The ruins there were strange, towers half buried in the dust, symbols carved into the stone. It was clear that no human had ever built them. The walls gave off a faint glow, pulsing like a heartbeat. Mia touched one of the carvings, and it lit up beneath her hand. "It's still active," she whispered. Ethan stepped closer, brushing away the dust. The symbols showed something, a creature with wings, chained to a mountain. Around it, smaller figures stood with spears and circles of light. "Looks like a story," he said, "or a warning." As night fell, they made a small camp near the ruins. The sky turned dark purple, and strange stars shone through the red clouds. The wind carried faint whispers, soft and sad. Mia wrapped her arms around herself. "Do you hear that?" she asked. Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, he said. It's like someone's crying. Neither of them knew that deep beneath their feet, something ancient had just opened its eyes for the first time in 1,000 years. The next morning, the sun rose weakly through the red clouds. Ethan woke first and checked the ship again. There was no signal, no power, and no hope of flying out. The horizon star was dead. Mia was already awake, sitting near the ruins with a small scanner in her hand. The device beeped softly, showing strange energy spikes beneath the ground. There's something alive down there, she said quietly. Or at least something moving. Ethan frowned. Alive? After all this time? She shrugged. I don't know. But the energy readings match no human technology. They decided to explore further before nightfall. The air was warm and heavy, and the closer they got to the mountain, the stronger the humming became. It was like the world had a heartbeat. The ruins led them to a stone pathway that disappeared into the side of Mount Saren. The entrance was shaped like a dragon's mouth, its teeth carved from black stone. The moment Ethan stepped inside, his flashlight flickered. The walls inside were covered with carvings, old scenes of humans standing beside giant dragons. Some carvings showed battles, others showed peace. But one wall caught Mia's eye. It showed a dragon chained by light, surrounded by smaller figures bowing before it. This looks like a prison, she said. Ethan touched the carving and felt a faint vibration under his palm. Maybe it's more than just a picture, he said. Maybe it's a warning. They followed the tunnel deeper. The air grew colder and filled with a faint, sweet smell, like burned metal and flowers. The sound of whispers began again, soft but clear this time. They didn't come from the tunnel ahead or behind, they came from the walls themselves. Do you hear that? Mia asked, her voice trembling. Yeah, Ethan said, gripping his light tighter. It's saying something? Can you make it out? The whispers grew louder. The words were in no human language, but somehow Ethan felt he understood them. They spoke of betrayal, of chains, and of waiting. A deep sadness filled the air, heavy enough to make them both stop walking. Suddenly, the ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a low rumble echoed from the heart of the mountain. The tunnel lights flashed, and for a moment, Ethan saw something ahead. A pair of glowing eyes watching them through the darkness. Then the mountain went silent again. Mia's voice broke the stillness. Ethan, she whispered, we shouldn't be here. He looked back toward the glowing eyes, then at her. Maybe not, he said quietly, but something wants us to be. The storm came without warning. Thick clouds rolled over Mount Saren, and red lightning flashed across the sky. Ethan and Mia ran toward the ruins, trying to find cover from the growing wind. The mountain roared like something alive. Dust and stones fell from above as the ground shook beneath their feet. Inside the tunnel, the carvings began to glow again, brighter than before. The air was filled with static energy, and their hair stood on end. This place is waking up, Mia said, her voice barely a whisper. Ethan looked around. The walls pulsed with light, following the same rhythm as the thunder outside. A deep sound echoed through the mountain, slow and heavy, like breathing. He felt it through his boots, through his bones. That's not the storm, he said quietly. That's something else. They moved deeper into the temple, drawn toward the sound. The passage opened into a vast chamber, bigger than anything they had seen before. Pillars carved with dragon symbols lined the walls, and in the center was a massive shape covered in dust and glowing chains of light. It was a dragon, huge, beautiful, and terrifying even in sleep. Mia gasped. It's alive. Dravakar's body was still, but the air around him shimmered with power. The chains that held him were not made of metal but of pure energy. Each link glowed softly, covered with old symbols that moved like living fire. Ethan took a slow step forward, his light trembling in his hand. The dragon's eyes opened. 2 golden lights shone through the darkness, calm yet full of sadness. The chamber filled with a sound that was not a growl but a voice, deep, ancient, and inside their minds. Who comes to this place of silence? Mia stumbled backward, too shocked to speak. Ethan froze, his heart pounding. We didn't mean to disturb you, he said out loud, not knowing if the creature could hear him. The dragon's gaze moved slowly toward him. Asterisk, a human? After so long. Asterisk, the words echoed in Ethan's head, gentle but powerful. Asterisk, the chains still hold. The world still fears. Asterisk. Lightning flashed again, lighting up the entire chamber. For a brief moment, Ethan saw what looked like tears of light running down the dragon's face. The storm outside grew stronger, matching the dragon's pulse. Mia grabbed Ethan's arm. "We need to go," she shouted over the thunder. But Ethan could not move. He stared at the dragon, feeling a strange pull, something beyond fear or reason. Deep inside, he knew that this meeting was not an accident. Something greater had brought him here. Something that had waited 1,000 years for a human to return. Ethan stood frozen before the dragon, unable to look away from its glowing eyes. The air in the great chamber was thick with energy, heavy enough to make it hard to breathe. Mia held his arm tightly, her voice trembling. "Ethan, we should go. This thing is not safe." But Ethan shook his head. Something deep inside him told him that running away was wrong. He took a slow step forward, his boots scraping against the stone floor. The dragon's eyes followed his every move, bright and unblinking. "Why are you chained?" Ethan asked softly. His voice echoed through the chamber. The dragon's voice filled his mind again, deep and sad. Asterisk, the ones who feared me bound me here. They thought I would destroy them. They were wrong. Asterisk. Ethan swallowed hard. "Who are you?" "I am Dravikar," the voice said. Asterisk, guardian of the ancient skies, protector of the first humans who walked this world. But they forgot their promise. They turned their light into fear. Asterisk. Mia shook her head. "Ethan, it's manipulating you," she said. "You don't know what it is." Ethan glanced back at her. "Maybe. But what if it's telling the truth?" He stepped closer to the dragon. The air shimmered around him, and the ground trembled beneath his feet. The chains that bound Dravikar glowed brighter, humming with energy. The dragon lowered its head slightly, so that its golden eyes were level with Ethan's. Asterisk, the chains are not only mine. They are yours too, human. Fear has kept your kind from remembering who they are. Asterisk. Ethan could feel the warmth of the light now. It wasn't painful, but it filled him with a strange mix of sorrow and hope. He reached out a hand without thinking, as if something greater guided him. Mia cried out, "Ethan, stop!" His fingers touched the glowing chain. A surge of power rushed through his arm, and light exploded across the room. Symbols on the walls flared to life, spinning and moving like living fire. Ethan fell to his knees, gasping, but he did not pull away. The dragon roared, not in anger, but in freedom. The chains cracked. One by one, the links shattered into dust, each one releasing a flash of golden light. The mountain trembled as if the whole world felt the moment of release. When the final chain broke, silence filled the air. Ethan lay on the ground, his hand still glowing faintly. Mia ran to him, shaking him awake. "Ethan, what did you do?" He looked up weakly, his eyes reflecting the light fading from the air. "I think," he whispered, "I set it free." A bright light filled the mountain, spreading through every crack and tunnel. Mia covered her eyes as the air around her began to vibrate. The sound of metal breaking echoed again and again, louder than thunder. When the light finally faded, the chains that had held Dravikar were gone. Only small sparks of golden dust floated where they once were. Ethan lay on the ground, his body still glowing faintly. His breathing was weak, but he was alive. Mia knelt beside him, her heart pounding. "Ethan, wake up," she whispered. He didn't move at first. His skin felt warm, almost burning under her hands. Slowly he opened his eyes. They shone faintly with the same golden hue that had surrounded the dragon. Behind them, Dravikar lifted his massive head for the first time in 1,000 years. The sound of his wings stretching filled the chamber like rolling thunder. His scales glowed like molten metal, and his eyes burned with deep fire. The ground shook as he stood to his full height, touching the top of the chamber. Mia stepped back, staring up in awe. "He's free," she said quietly. "You actually freed him." Draviker looked down at her and then at Ethan. "The bond is made," the dragon's voice said inside their minds. "The one who breaks the chains must share the light." Ethan sat up slowly. His hand, the one that had touched the chains, was marked with a strange silver symbol that pulsed gently. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means you carry part of my essence now," Draviker replied. Asterisk my power, my memory, my burden. The chains that held me have marked you as the one who ended their age. Asterisk. Mia frowned. "And what happens to him now?" Draviker's wings opened slightly, sending a wave of warm wind through the chamber. Asterisk, he will live. But the bond between us cannot be broken. Our fates are now one. Asterisk. The mountain began to crack, stones falling from above as the storm outside grew wilder. Draviker looked toward the entrance, his voice calm and heavy. Asterisk, the world will feel my freedom. Forces that once slept will now awaken. Asterisk. Ethan stood shakily, leaning on Mia for support. "We need to get out of here," he said. "Now." The dragon's eyes glowed brighter. Asterisk, go, human. The world beyond will soon remember what it forgot. But know this, when you freed me, you changed more than just my fate. Asterisk. Ethan looked back one last time as they ran toward the exit. Draviker spread his wings wide, breaking through the ceiling with a roar that shook the sky. For the first time in 1,000 years, the dragon of Dravenar was free. The air outside the mountain was filled with dust and light. Ethan and Mia stumbled out just in time to see the top of Mount Saren split open. A huge figure rose from the smoke. Draviker, the dragon of legend, spreading his wings for the first time in 1,000 years. His wings were so large that they cast shadows across the valley. Each movement of his body sent waves of hot wind across the broken ground. Ethan stood still, staring in awe. The mark on his hand glowed brighter, and he felt a strange warmth spread through his chest. It was as if part of the dragon's power now lived inside him. Mia grabbed his arm, her face pale. "Ethan, we have to leave. This place isn't safe anymore." Before he could answer, Draviker's voice echoed in their minds again. Asterisk, do not fear. I will not harm you. Asterisk, the dragon lowered his massive head, his golden eyes glowing softly. Asterisk, you freed me, human. You have broken the curse that kept the balance frozen. But freedom always comes with a price. Asterisk. Ethan frowned. What kind of price? The world will feel my return, Draviker said. Asterisk, the old darkness that once tried to destroy the stars will awaken again. My release has broken more than my chains. It has broken the silence that kept it sleeping. Asterisk. The ground trembled again as the dragon's wings opened wider. Clouds spun above them in a circle, glowing with strange energy. Mia looked up in shock. What's happening? Draviker raised his head toward the sky. Asterisk, the void stirs. It knows I am free. Asterisk. Ethan didn't fully understand, but the fear in Draviker's tone made his heart pound. Then we'll fight it, he said. Whatever it is. The dragon's gaze fell on him again. Asterisk, you speak as your ancestors once did. Brave and foolish. Asterisk, for a moment it almost sounded like the dragon was smiling. But courage is not foolishness when it is born from hope. Draviker lowered his wing, creating a shield of warmth over them as the storm around the mountain began to fade. Asterisk, you carry my mark, Ethan Cross. That bond cannot be undone. You will feel what I feel, see what I see. And when the time comes, you must stand beside me once more. Asterisk. Ethan looked at his glowing hand, then back at the dragon. I'll be ready. Draviker nodded slowly, his massive form glowing brighter. Asterisk, then go while you still can. The world beyond must remember what it has forgotten. Asterisk. With one last powerful beat of his wings, Draviker rose into the sky. The clouds broke apart, and for the first time in centuries, sunlight touched Mount Saren again. The valley was quiet after Draviker took flight. The sky, once red and storm-filled, now showed hints of gold light breaking through the clouds. Ethan and Mia stood together, staring up until the dragon vanished into the distance. The mountain behind them still glowed faintly, as if the earth itself remembered what had happened. Mia broke the silence first. "Do you think it's really gone?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "No, he's not gone. He said our bond connects us. I can still feel him, somewhere up there." He looked down at his hand, where the silver mark still shimmered faintly, pulsed like a heartbeat. They began to make their way back to the wrecked ship. The Horizon Star was half buried in dust and stone, but a few systems had come back to life. As Mia worked to fix the power cells, Ethan sat outside, staring at the horizon. His thoughts were heavy. He could feel something deep inside his mind, memories that were not his own. He saw flashes of an ancient war, of dragons fighting beside humans, of cities burning in the stars. When Mia finally got the ship's emergency systems running, the console flashed with new data. Strange energy readings filled the screen. "Ethan," she said, "you should see this. The energy levels from the mountain, they're spreading across the planet." Ethan looked closer. The signals formed patterns like beacons lighting up one by one. "It's not just energy," he said slowly. "It's a message." Before Mia could reply, a voice filled the air. Not through speakers, but inside their minds. The balance must be restored. It was Draviker. His voice was calm but firm. "The darkness your ancestors sealed is awakening. I will protect your kind again as I once did." Ethan stood, his pulse quickening. "What darkness?" "The Void Legion," Draviker answered. They were the destroyers of light, the ones who devoured worlds. Long ago, humans and dragons fought them together. But when your kind turned away from the old bond, I was left alone to guard the seal. Mia's voice was small. "And now that you're free, the seal is broken." "Yes," the dragon said. But do not fear. You freed me because your heart remembered what others forgot. Hope still burns in your kind. That hope will guide us again. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling both fear and determination. The vision of stars burning filled his mind again. He opened his eyes and looked toward the sky. "Then tell me what I have to do." Draviker's voice softened. Prepare, human. The storm that comes will not wait. The Guardian has returned, but even a dragon cannot face the darkness alone. Far above Dravenar, in the cold space between the stars, something began to move. Machines the size of moons stirred from their long sleep. Their metal bodies glowed with dark light, and their eyes opened one by one. The Void Legion was waking. Their signal spread like a shadow across the galaxy, silent but strong. On the planet below, Ethan and Mia watched the sky from the damaged Horizon Star. Strange flashes of light appeared in orbit, like storms made of darkness. The air felt heavier every hour. The mark on Ethan's hand burned whenever one of the flashes appeared. Draviker's voice came to them again. It has begun. The Legion remembers the stars they could not devour. They come for the light that still lives within you. Mia looked frightened. "What are we supposed to do? We don't even have a working ship." Ethan looked at her and then at the sky. "We call for help. Someone out there will hear us." But before he could move, the ground shook again. The mountain cracked open even more, revealing a large chamber beneath. A beam of golden light shot into the sky, bright enough to pierce the clouds. Draviker rose from the depths once again, his wings glowing brighter than before. His voice was like thunder. Your world must rise again. You cannot hide among the stars forever. Ethan stepped closer. "Then take us with you. If the fight is coming, I'm not staying behind." Mia stared at him. "Ethan, you can't be serious. We're just humans, we can't fight something like that." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe not alone, but he said we carry the same light." Draviker lowered his great head until his eyes met Ethan's. "Courage speaks louder than fear," he said. Very well. You shall see the war your ancestors began. Asterisk, the dragon's claws glowed, and the air around them shimmered. In an instant, they were lifted into the sky, standing on a platform of light that rose above the world. From there, Ethan saw the stars, dozens of ships moving in formation, dark and sharp like blades. The Void Legion was already close. Their engines burned with black fire. Dravakar spread his wings wide, and the air around him rippled with energy. "They come to unmake what you have freed," he said. "But this time we will not run." Ethan felt fear rise in his chest, but beneath it was something stronger. He clenched his glowing hand and nodded. "Then let's show them what humans can do." The dragon roared, and the sky burned with golden light as they flew upward together toward the coming darkness. The stars above Dravenar were filled with fire. The Void Legion had arrived, their black ships cutting through the night like blades of shadow. Beams of red energy struck the mountains and oceans below, shaking the planet with each blast. But from the heart of the storm, golden light rose to meet them. Dravakar flew at the front, wings wide, his scales burning like the sun itself. Ethan and Mia held tight to the glowing platform as they followed the dragon into the sky. The mark on Ethan's hand was blazing, brighter than ever before. He could feel Dravakar's thoughts inside his mind, his focus, his fury, his endless strength. For the first time, Ethan understood that the dragon was not just a creature of fire, but of memory. He carried the history of both humans and dragons within him. "Now you see," Dravakar's voice said in his head. Asterisk, the bond between us was never meant to fade. Together we rise or fall. Asterisk, the first wave of the Legion attacked. Dark drones swarmed around them, firing bolts of energy. Dravakar roared, and the sound alone shattered dozens of them. Ethan raised his hand, and a burst of golden light exploded outward, forming a shield around them. Mia stared in shock. "Ethan, how did you do that?" "I don't know," he said. "I just felt it." Dravakar turned his head slightly. Asterisk, the bond gives you part of my flame. Use it well. Asterisk. More ships appeared from the shadows. The dragon twisted in the air, breathing torrents of fire that burned brighter than the stars. Ethan focused his energy again, shaping it into spears of light that cut through the darkness. The sky became a storm of gold and black. But for every enemy they destroyed, more kept coming. The dragon's wings were slowing, his light dimming. "It is not enough," Dravakar said. Asterisk, the darkness feeds on fear. You must remind the stars of hope. Asterisk. Ethan closed his eyes. He remembered the first time he had seen Dravakar chained beneath the mountain. The sadness in the dragon's eyes, the promise of freedom. He thought of the people back on Earth who still looked to the stars, dreaming of something greater. When he opened his eyes again, the light in his hand had changed. It was pure white, steady and strong. "Then let's end this," he whispered. Dravakar roared one final time and rose into the center of the enemy fleet. Ethan's light spread through the sky, breaking the shadow apart. The stars shone brighter than they ever had before. When the silence came, it was filled with warmth and peace. The dragon's voice faded softly in Ethan's mind. Asterisk, well done, human. The chains are gone. Keep the light. Asterisk. As the dawn rose over Dravenar, Ethan watched the first sunlight touch the world again. The age of silence was over. The guardians had returned.